Before I got into tech, I worked as a psychologist. And at some point during that work, I burned out completely. Not gradually. Well, it actually was gradual. I just didn't notice it. And here's what's strange about that. I knew what burnout is. I studied it clinically. I discussed it with clients, helped other people recognize it, and still missed it in myself until it was already done. And that stayed with me, even with genuine awareness of the fact, of the process, of the burnout itself. I still tend to catch up my own emotions and my state usually later than I should. I'm telling you this not as a credential moment, but because I think it matters for what I'm about to speak about. Because burnout in tech doesn't announce itself. It doesn't look like breaking down. It just happens. Just at one day, you don't care anymore about anything. Here is something that I've been thinking a lot. Usually, people who burn out are not the ones who don't do their work properly, especially in tech. These are not people who coast, check out at 5 or maybe 4:30 p.m. and forget about work entirely. Usually it's the opposite. The people who are prone to burning out, usually the ones who have high standards of work, who believe in doing their job properly, who believe in working hard, and secretly await the same approach from others. They tend to, when something goes wrong, first look inward. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Instead of looking around and looking at their environment. And these specific traits we cultivate from childhood, starting from school, university, etc. These are not bad habits. People get praised for them, get promoted because of them. And these traits are exactly what gets exploited, not deliberately, not as a manipulative tactic, though this also happens. It happens more often as a structural environment, structural reality. If you give more than your job requires, then eventually this job will come to you to require it. If you absorb pressure quietly, without asking questions or setting boundaries, more pressure will arrive. And if you treat your job and your profession as an evaluation of you as a person, then any bad project, any missed deadline, any issue will be treated by you as a personal failure. And burnout doesn't come from having bad traits or bad habits. It actually happens when you have good traits and habits are okay, but they are not protected in an environment you are currently in. There are lots of videos and articles about burnout. You can Google and within 5 minutes you will get definitions, stages, a more explicit description. That's not what I plan to do in this video. You may read a description like burnout is a stage of chronic stress that leads to physical and emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and a sense of ineffectiveness. That's essentially it. You already knew it. What I want to focus on is why it specifically happens in people in tech, why it might happen at all, what it looks like in engineers and tech people in general, and how to prevent it, how to see it in yourself before it's too late. Here is what makes this particular hard in tech. Admitting it to others, even to yourself, can cost a lot more than you are actually willing to pay. There is a realistic fear underneath it. It's not irrational. You may think like, if someone knows that I'm in a burnout, I may become a liability to my company. I may become a person who will be reassigned, managed, and even let go or fired. And because for most of us, our work is not fully separated from financial stability or not separated at all, these quick calculations happens in seconds. Say nothing, keep going, look fine. And this all is connected to stage 1, when you are in the honeymoon phase and you feel like your company values you and cares about you. You might have felt in the honeymoon phase, of course, that the company will care about you when things go hard and help you overcome this. It might be true for some of the companies, and of course for individuals on your team on the project, but business in general, I don't think so. Business is created to produce value. That's not cynicism, it's just how the things work, what businesses are. The problem is that when you are at the stage 1 in the honeymoon, you forget about this business stuff, and the gap becomes clear when you're at stage 3 or in 4 on the burnout, when this expectation of the support that you may get from the company is higher than you actually get, and this all becomes really clear. But by then, by stage 3 or 4, admitting that you're struggling to something that's not really caring about you feels like admitting a weakness for a thing that actually treated you more like a resource. So people don't say anything, they proceed, they keep going, and it's only getting worse. So let's start with the stages, and I would like to walk you through them, not as a clinical medical chart, but mostly for us and for you to remember. Maybe you recognize yourself in those on those stages, maybe you know someone who currently is going through them. So stage 1, the honeymoon. Yes, and it's this stage in a burnout. Exactly. You have high energy, genuine investments into the project, you are energized and motivated. You are taking tasks, even some tasks there is more than is awaited from you. You may stay late and you feel like it matters and that your work matters. And the most crucial part, you feel truly involved in the team and the project and the company. Here's the thing that I genuinely feel like it should be named. This stage actually feels good because you are energized, you feel motivated, and it's not a sign of anything wrong in particular, at least on the surface level. But the thing is, if you're prone to having a burnout, this exact stage is when everything starts. Everything starts from extra involvement, extra energizing yourself, doing much more than you actually should do, than you are weighted to do. Because when you are at that stage, the effort you put feels sustainable. You don't feel depleted yet. And everything is growing, flourishing, so you feel really good. And that's a tricky point here. Sometimes I think that the fact that stage 1 feels genuinely good is already a warning sign, because you feel that you love the project and the company and that the company loves you back. But the thing is, it's not always a stable process. That emotional investment of yours is real, but the thing is, companies are not built to actually reciprocate this. Companies are created to get profit, to grow the business. Though individual people in any company might of course care about you, but the company as the whole entity, I doubt so. And when these two purposes and things clash, usually business wins. Okay, let's proceed with the stage 2. First, friction. Occasional strong stress. Maybe physical symptoms may appear. Maybe you have worse sleep from time to time. And this whole period, you may explain it as just a busy period at work and life in general. In tech, it usually looks like you are struggling with requirements. The system resists your attempts to fix that if it's not working. Or the process itself in a project is not working the way you would like it to work. And the key part, you keep trying, because that's who you are, right? You are a hard-working person who values hard work and your involvement in a project. these attempts are not the problem. But the problem is that the system you are trying to change, if you are, is not changing. And at some point you start to feel it and notice it. We've come to the stage 3, the chronic stress. It's when the stress stops being occasional and becomes a general environment of your life. It's there when you get up, it's there when you close the laptop. And now the physical symptoms are harder to not notice. Maybe it's harder to concentrate. Maybe the same tasks that used to energize you, for example, I don't know, solving a huge complex task, doing a code review, fixing a bug, whatever. This time it feels different. It doesn't land the same way as it used to do. And the thing is, as a good, hard-working person you are still showing up. You are still doing your job. I bet pretty well. But something's changed and it costs for you a lot more than it used to cost. And we've come finally to the burnout phase, to the stage 4. This is where not caring anymore happens. Not dramatically, not overnight. Just at some point you noticed it, that you stopped caring about anything, about the project, your work, maybe the company, I don't know, but you stopped caring. And this not caring actually has no weight. It feels more like flatness, no grief about anything. So what it may feel like inside. You do your work, you come to goals, you complete tasks, you're physically present, but mentally you're not. And this distance, it keeps growing between you and the project, between you and the work that used to feel like yours. Is it clicking something in you? And the trickiest part of this stage, it's the hardest one to notice. Because in some ways it feels a bit lighter than it used to be. You feel relieved. At last you caught some zen in the process. But the thing is, it's not zen, it's a depletion already. You don't have the capacity, you don't have energy to keep everything inside you and to proceed your work and the process as it is, as you used to work. And here's why that matters a lot and why I raise this issue. Because, well, some people may think it's not that bad to not care that much about your work, right? Well, that might be true, but when the thing is, when you are on that stage, when you really face this burnout doesn't stop at work. This burnout spreads across your whole life, and you may even find yourself not wanting to, to take hobbies that you used to like a lot. You don't have time and energy to be fully engaged in your family's life, in your hobbies life. Maybe, something that's your own apart from work. And at this stage, this not caring could be already there as well. And the people you love and that care about you, they may also see it in you. They may find themselves sitting in a room next to you, but you are physically there but not present. And you're not aligned with them emotionally, you're not connected. And this flatness can become comprehensive. It's not that work or job in general stopped being an important part of your life, but maybe you stopped caring about anything in general. And this all makes this whole stage 4 really dangerous, because you may finally feel relieved and finding your peace, but in fact, in reality, you don't feel anything anymore. And this may be even dangerous in a clinical way. And if you find yourself in a position where you feel certain emotions that I've just described, for a couple of weeks or maybe months, probably it's time to consult with a psychologist, because this burnout could actually lead to depression, and the depression is quite a dangerous thing on its own, but we won't go there right now. So, what could really help this person? I need to be careful here because the whole conversation could easily go to the what to do list for a person that's already depleted. That could lead to another burden on a person's shoulders, the very person that will easily take this burden because they believe they are hardworking, they need to overcome, do more, etc. etc. Feels familiar, right? But within those constraints that you may currently find yourself in, maybe you can't leave the project, the company, maybe you don't want to. There is still some space to apply some knowledge and skills that may help you overcome this burnout, maybe heal yourself, maybe prevent it if you are on stage 1 or on stage 2. These are what I found personally. They may not apply to your case specifically. Please feel free to share your thoughts and feelings in the comments, your experience, what helped you in the way. Let's proceed with the points that I find helpful. First thing that we need to know for sure, if you are already on the stage 4, meaning you have a burnout, most probably for most of us, it means that staying in the same environment, in the same working environment, and proceed to work as it is without changing the project or the process is not sustainable. It's not possible at all. What do I mean by that? I mean that psychologically for most of us, this won't work in the long term because staying in the same environment that depletes your energy and never fully recover may eventually do more harm than it is already. Sometimes in those cases, the only thing that fixes the problem, that cures your burnout, is a full stop. Not just a project switch, not even a company switch, but a full stop. It may also be called a sabbatical, when you stop doing what you're doing and just go and have some time for a long-term break and recover. It may take 3 months, 6 months, for some of us even to a year. That's why the real prevention of a burnout is more important, not to find yourself on a stage 4 when it's hard to choose any of the options. And I would like to share some insights that I have, some tips that I use on a daily basis to prevent having any burnout in the future. First, and one of the most important, treat your work as part of your life, not your whole life, but one of the list. This is connected to the trait that I described earlier, the one when you evaluate yourself as a good person based on the work you're doing, based on your profession. And that particular link between your self-worth and your work, your profession, is something that you need to work on and to loosen it and to have other bases of self-worth not related to any employment. For example, if you're currently unemployed, does it make you a bad person, not worthy person? This same feeling is what I've seen in people when they currently are unemployed or in process of finding a job, if they evaluate their self-worth on it. If you are that kind of person who takes pride of what you build, this is the point for you. You are not your job title, your job achievements. Your self-worth is not evaluated on a good or bad sprint. Second point, have as many activities outside of your work as you could and treat them as equal, not secondary. For example, hobbies, friends that are not your colleagues in tech, interests that don't make you more productive. The more real your life is outside your work, the less your work can take over your whole life and whole identity. Third, set a strict schedule of your work and stick to it. What do I mean? If you are paid for 8 hours, work those 8 hours. If something urgent comes and it needs to be fixed right away on this day, later in the evening, ask for a paid overtime or less working hours the next day if it's possible. That's not a radical demand. That's a fair exchange of your time and work and the salary that you get paid. This default of absorbing extra time for work, extra work without being paid, that's what feeds stage 2 to go to stage 3 and closer to the burnout. 4. Keep your work contacts out of your free time. The less contact you have with your colleagues in your free time, the better. And I mean it. That doesn't mean that you need to pretend that colleagues don't exist, but it means that your free time is yours. You don't owe anyone at work the access to it. The fifth, one of the crucial parts. Turn off notifications on your phone and never open a laptop out of working hours. This is a real practical version of everything that I've described earlier. No notifications, for example, past 7 p.m. Laptop closed. It's not discipline, it's a boundary. If a laptop is open, you will check it. If notifications are on, you will check them. You will respond. This environment, like any environment, will take what you give and what you allow. So don't allow it to happen. Don't make your free time be available for working activities. And this whole discussion brings me to a question, a really important one. Can you actually avoid the stage 1? And I don't have a clean answer to that because, well, I myself used to have burnout and depression, remember? It means that I had this stage 1. I used to be there. So the question is, if our traits that really make us good professionals in our job, and those same traits are a risk factor to having a burnout, could we avoid this stage 1? Could we proceed with having those traits, but maybe have, another version of stage 1, but in a healthy way? Or is it always going to happen having those traits? And the question becomes, how fast do you get it? How fast would you recognize yourself on the stage? And how fast would you correct the course? And I genuinely don't know. And also I think it could be different for different people. But what I do know, that the recognition problem is real. For people even with psychological background, knowing this all theoretically and in practice, having gone through all this not once, this might still be an issue to catch yourself on stage 1 and further. And here I would like an honest conversation on that. So my question to you will be, if you're still watching this video, it means that you're interested in this topic. At what stage did you actually find yourself? At stage 1, stage 2, stage 3? Or was it another person who recognized it in you first? And if, of course, you found something that helped you overcome burnout or prevent it, please feel free to share it in the comments. Because of what exactly I described, this all is based on personal traits, and people with different personal traits may find some other tips to be helpful than what I listed before. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.